Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. I'm Leanne Sanders. This year's Chinook salmon season is coming to an end. The Carcross Tagish First Nation in Yukon continues to grapple with the loss of the highly respected fish. As Sarah Connors tells us, solutions to help the salmon rebound can be found in traditional knowledge.
Marsh Lake near Whitehorse was a place once rich with Chinook salmon. Decades ago, Tagish people gathered here to harvest a highly valued fish. While First Nations can no longer harvest in Marsh Lake, the importance of Chinook salmon lives on.
There's this one young boy. They gave him a copper necklace. He had this copper necklace.
For knowledge keeper and former Carcross Tagish First Nation chief Mark Wedge, the story of Salmon Boy is a cautionary tale about what happens when salmon are not cherished. The story tells of a young boy who throws a salmon head away in disgust. Salmon people sweep the boy into the water, turning him into a salmon and showing him their world.
And what my mother said is that you have to live your life like a salmon, because they're constantly feeding the world. They're constantly giving to the world. They feed the people all over the world. They'll travel all over these oceans.
Salmon numbers have dwindled over the years due to cumulative impacts of extreme environmental events and habitat loss. Most recent numbers gathered from sonar at the border of Alaska and the Yukon show around 15,000 Chinook. It's a slight increase from last year when 12,000 fish were counted, but still far below the 10-year historical average of 50,000 fish. At the Whitehorse Fish Ladder, just over 150 fish have been counted.
And that's really, really sad. That's not good at all.
Carcross Tagish Chief Mariah Benoit says her people now get their salmon from a neighboring community.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for their future. Yeah, I'm afraid for them that they won't know what it's like. We have to take them other places to teach them how to preserve salmon.
But Wedge says salmon are resilient and we should be preparing for their return. He says solutions can be found in Indigenous teachings, ceremony, and caring for the land and water.
Is it redesigning fish ladders? Is it using traditional knowledge? Is it a combination of using spirituality and ceremony as well as science and technology to start figuring out how to bring those salmon home now?
While places like Marsh Lake are without salmon for now, Wedge believes they will return as long as everyone does their part.
But when we start working together, right, that's when you become strong. And that's the indication of when the animals say, okay, they're doing their part, let's do our part.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Marsh Lake.
In southwestern Nova Scotia, 2 people were arrested for assault at Saulnieville Wharf over the weekend, where non-Indigenous people gathered to protest the Mi'kmaq fishery. Angel Moore reports.
About 30 non-Indigenous people gathered in protest against the Mi'kmaq fishery. On a video posted to Facebook, this user said, "These are your Mi'kmaq people, the keepers of the land, which I call the rapers of the sea, because that is what it is when you're raping a bay that's not supposed to be fished in because it's closed. What else is there?" RCMP said in a statement in 2 separate incidents, 2 men were arrested for assault. There were no injuries and no charges are expected to be laid. About 40 Mi'kmaq fishers spent the night at the wharf to protect their boats, including Robert Sack of the Sasquatch First Nation.
They're coming here and they're driving through the parking lot and spinning their tires and staring us down, and there's no need for it.
The Mi'kmaq fishers of the Sasquatch Nation are harvesting lobster under their community's food, social, and ceremonial fishery management plan. Robert Sack and his family are not deterred, with the support of their chief, Michelle Glasgow.
I'm very grateful that she did come out with us, because we do need community support. Michelle did come down, along with a couple other counselors came down, and they're showing support, and I'm glad she got to come out and see firsthand for herself what we're actually catching.
Last week, 2 Conservative MPs representing the area, Chris D'Entremont and Rick Parsons, in a letter to the Minister of Fisheries, called the Mi'kmaq poachers hauling hundreds of thousands of pounds of lobster per day. Shannon Sack of the Sasquatch Nation says that is impossible, with 12 Mi'kmaq boats fishing 25 traps.
Each boat would have to bring in 200 crates of lobster. And nowhere have I ever heard, even during a commercial season, that a boat has brought in 200 crates of lobster in one day.
Robert Sack says the letter is criminalizing treaty rights.
He's inciting hate, and he's going to get people riled up. He said that tensions are rising and we're in illegal fisheries and all this stuff like that. And we've been through Supreme Court so many times, it's not illegal.
The Mi'kmaq have a treaty right to harvest to earn a moderate livelihood, upheld by the Supreme Court of Canada.
We're guaranteed access to everything in Nova Scotia, whether it's hunting or fishing or trapping or making baskets, anything. Our treaty says anything. And to call a Native person a poacher is really, really insulting.
But commercial fishers say the fishery is illegal and the stocks are at risk. Riley Howe says he is protecting future generations.
Most importantly, just down here exercising our treaty rights, so you know, maybe my kids or grandchildren will someday be down here doing the same thing I am. Maybe they'll have it a little bit better, but...
Sack says politicians need to work with the Mi'kmaq and is hopeful.
So we're staying vigilant, and we're here, and we're going to keep doing our thing. We're not going to stop because someone writes a letter or someone gets online and others threats or whatever. We're still going to be here.
Police continue to remain at Saulnieville Wharf to ensure public safety. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Saulnieville.
The annual Healing Our Spirit Worldwide Conference is currently underway in Vancouver. APTN's Tina House was there and has this report.
How can you have a treaty unless you tell the truth?
An estimated 3,400 delegates from around the world have descended upon Vancouver. And out here on the terrace of the convention center, people lined up to be smudged. From as far away as Australia, Tahiti to New Zealand and Mexico, Indigenous healers, community members, and those that work in the health field are here to talk about healing the nations. Jenny Toria is a master healer from Tahiti. She comes from a long line of healers and is the first in her country to now work alongside doctors in the hospitals.
This is a big opportunity for all the healers, all the person who have the love on the heart and the soul, to come here, to exchange, to appreciate everything from everyone.
How did you learn how to heal? Were you born with it? How did you learn?
In my genealogy, we don't learn. Nobody teach us how to be a healer or how to be that or that. You was choice before in the belly of your mom before you was born.
As we were just finishing the interview with Jenny, we witnessed firsthand her healing abilities after she met Chief Ralph Leon of the Chehalis First Nation. He's a residential school survivor who still carries a lot of hurt from the trauma he endured. We asked Chief Leon how he felt after the session.
I did have a little bit of ailment in my back. You know, thinking. You know, thinking can get you sick. And I feel better, feel good. And I just thought of my grandma, and then she brought up my grandma, like, holy smokes, you know, so it's a good thing.
And like Jenny, we met Major Sumner, an elder from Australia, who showcases the 18 clans from his tribe in Australia painted on his body.
All Indigenous people from around the world, they got the stories of the land. They know the stories of how the creation, some of us go right back even before the Ice Age. We was here, we was walking around, we was traveling from different lands. before water come up and stopped and blocked it. So all the stories that we know, that we got, we need to tell them to the rest of the world.
And for Sumner and his delegation from Australia, that storytelling is done through dance. Leah Ballantyne and her community members from Saskatchewan say this conference has been life-changing.
Healing our spirits worldwide is so exciting. I wanted to share the experience with some of my community members here.
They say the opportunity to see so many other cultures has inspired them.
I thought about our culture, like Cree, how I lost my language, and that I need to get in touch with myself, and that's how I feel. I feel like happy, excited.
The 9th annual Healing Our Spirit Worldwide concludes this week. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
The Elder Society in Iqaluit, Nunavut, is looking to expand the number of spaces available to seniors who are needing shelter. Trevor Wright brings us this story.
With Iqaluit's only current assisted living facility having a capacity of 8, the needs are great. The Elder Society of Iqaluit wants to get a 42-unit elder residence off the ground.
Well, because there's a very high shortage of housing. I don't know what the waiting list is for housing, but there's a huge demand for them. And the elders that are currently retiring, like for example from the government, are caught in an area where they don't have a house. They have to vacate their homes, government homes, and need a place to go. Or
once that happens, they either have the choice of navigating Nunavut's crowded housing market, moving to southern Canada, or with family in Nunavut, where overcrowded conditions are frequent. The planned facility will be for elders who are able to live on their own. It's expected to have shared kitchen and laundry facilities, but residents will have their own spaces. They also hope to host a pharmacy, daycare, sewing rooms, and a country food outlet, among other amenities.
We're in the early stage because we're working on obtaining a contractor for the project. And we are currently trying to secure more funding for it, but the project will go ahead.
They hope the federal government help fund the project once the time comes. The next step, however, is getting the zoning designation changed.
Documents, we have secured the land. We have done geotechnical studies in that. And we had also met with the city of Iqaluit to change their bylaw, current bylaw, so that facility can be up and running in that area.
To facilitate this, the city is holding a hearing next week to collect comments from the public if this is something they would like to see. Flaherty says this project is very much in the public interest, giving a respite for elders from Nunavut's housing crisis.
It's very, very needed right now. There's a lot of homelessness or moving from one relative to another, couch surfing, what you might have in that, but it's really, really needed. There's a huge shortage of housing, especially a lot for elders who are leaving the workforce and that.
Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
We have to take a quick break. When we do come back, we'll head to Williams Lake, where the government has apologized for a historical wrong. Welcome back. The federal government has formally apologized to the Williams Lake First Nation in British Columbia over a historical wrongdoing over a century ago. APTN's Tina House has this story.
This past weekend, Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations Gary Anandasangari was in Williams Lake to finally make amends.
The government of Canada accepts responsibility for this historic injustice and expresses its deepest regret and sincere apology to the people of Williams Lake First Nation for the harms suffered by being unlawfully and wrongfully dispossessed and separated from the village lands.
The minister was in the First Nation to right a historic wrong. In 1861, the federal government removed the Williams Lake First Nation from their village. That forced members to live in the surrounding mountains for years, sometimes homeless. The former village is now the city of Williams Lake, and another site was chosen in the early 1870s across the lake as a reserve for the nation, now known as sugarcane. Along with the apology, the federal government will also provide $135 million in compensation to the community. Cookbee Chief Willie Sellers says he's grateful to all the past leaders who fought hard for decades in Supreme Court to finally get this justice for what was done so long ago.
It was a big moment for us. A very emotional day, a lot of work, and a lot of those elders aren't here that helped us win that case. And we start thinking about celebrating and holding up the legacy of those individuals. We can't help but get emotional thinking about all the work that they did so that we could be here.
Cookbee Sellers says he's excited for the future.
Our generations from here on out are going to be taken care of. We put that money into a community trust, and really nothing is out of the realm of possibility for the Williams Lake First Nation. We're going to be able to do some really great things.
Along with the compensation, the Williams Lake First Nation can also add an additional 1,400 acres onto their current reserve land. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
The 5th National Gathering on Missing Children and Unmarked Graves took place in Montreal last week, where survivors and leaders shared their truths. Emilia Fournier has more.
Indigenous leaders, activists, and survivors gathered in Montreal to share their stories, resources, and strategies on the path towards truth.
Part of my position is to speak with Indigenous communities and survivors of Indian residential schools.
Kimberly Murray, the special interlocutor for missing children and unmarked graves, says these gatherings are essential and need to continue after her mandate is up in June 2024.
We're seeing that communities and survivors want to continue the work that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission did. We have people coming forward that are survivors of the residential schools that never shared their experience with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Murray says Canadians should examine the information that's been gathered, especially when residential school denialism is on the rise.
Go to the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation website. Listen to the survivor testimony that's recorded. It's public. People can listen to it. Look at the documents that are available on the website, and you'll see that there's the blueprints that were created when they were making the institutions, where they showed this is where the cemetery is going to be. There are the documents that say the cemetery is full. We're going to have to start burying the kids across the street.
She adds that many archives remain hidden.
Provinces hold records. They hold death certificates. They hold records on burial permits. So it's important that the provincial archives open up as well.
One tool to bring these to light, Quebec's Bill 79, which allows families of children who disappeared from healthcare institutions in Quebec to access their documents.
Mais là, ce qui est intéressant, c'est que les institutions doivent donner l'information. Que ce soit un hôpital, un sanatorium, un cimetière, un diocèse, ils sont dans l'obligation de donner l'information à la famille.
Anne Panasuk was the special advisor to the province supporting families of those missing children. When she was working as a journalist, her investigation revealed the widespread event of Indigenous children going missing after receiving health care outside of their communities.
Qu'un enfant est disparu au pensionnat, qu'un enfant est disparu à l'hôpital, c'est la même douleur pour les familles.
Panasuk talked about Bill 79 at the Unmarked Graves gathering, sparking interest from people from other nations outside of Quebec.
Je cumule les conférences et les présentations pour faire en sorte que les associations autochtones le demandent. Et je sais que l'interlocutrice indépendante nommée par Ottawa est très intéressée à la loi 79 et j'espère qu'elle le soumettra au gouvernement fédéral. Mais encore, la santé est du domaine provincial.
Françoise Rupert-House is Anishinaabe from Picogan. She works for Awashak, an organization that helps families in the search for their children.
J'ai toujours pensé qu'on n'était pas beaucoup qui avaient perdu des enfants à partir des hôpitaux, mais on est rendu à 156. Puis on a juste 3 nations de fait. Même pas. On a 2 nations et demie de fait.
Rupert House's brother and sister disappeared after being admitted to Amos Hospital. Now she's helping other families find answers.
Je pense que les Autochtones devraient se lever puis demander une loi qui ressemble à la loi 79 au Québec, puis que tout le monde se lève au Canada parce qu'on n'a pas été traités pareil comme tout le monde, je veux dire.
Amelia Fournier, APTN National News, Montreal.
One more quick break. When we come back, though, we'll head to Sasquatch University. Welcome back. Ryan Willis is a Bigfoot researcher and founder of the Trent University Sasquatch Society. He's also the host and producer of a new TV show called Sasquatch University on the Wild TV channel. Daryl Stranger spoke with him this week to learn more about their group and their TV show.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us here and welcome. First off, can you tell us a bit about your group Sasquatch University and how this all got started?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So we started something called the Trent University Sasquatch Society at Trent University here in Ontario, and that kind of led to us doing a TV show, Sasquatch University, coming out on the Wild TV channel the week of September 25th.
So why did you dedicate so much of your time proving that Sasquatch exists, and you know, why are you just so interested in this in the first place?
I've been incredibly interested in Bigfoot ever since I was a little kid, since probably about 10 or 11 years old. And it kind of led to me going out in the woods up in Algonquin Park over the years and doing my own investigations and things like that. And by the time I got to Trent, I met some other people with similar interests. We formed a group and started all this. And we collect reports from all over Canada. And a lot of people send us really good evidence and different things like that. So it's been really cool to get kind of a first-hand look at everything. And, you know, I'm a full-on believer now, and I think it's just the coolest thing ever.
Well, and as you mentioned, Ryan, Sasquatch University is also on Wild TV, which is super cool. So what can viewers see on the program? Is there, you know, maybe any evidence of Sasquatch or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe after the interview, I'll send you guys some of the different clips. But yeah, there'll be video evidence of Bigfoot, photo evidence, audio clips, tracks. We were able to come across a lot of evidence by connecting with Ontarians. And yeah, they had a lot to send us and give us. So there was a lot to investigate. And we'll be covering all that in the show. And, you know, hopefully by the time people are done watching, they'll all be believers too.
Well, we'll certainly have to check that out there, Ryan. We'll have to leave it there, but we just wanted to speak with you quickly about this and how cool and interesting all this is. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
That's all we have for you tonight. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.